The blow up last week in the White House involving President Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. What sense are we to make of this? That's the subject of this video, and all those who are interested in this exercise are cordially invited. If you really want to understand why things played out the way it did, and understand in particular why it was not a spontaneous development, but part of a carefully scripted course of events, you need to look away from that and consider something entirely different. Therefore, let me begin with that. I invite you to see this visual. Now, what you have seen obviously is the chainsaw gifted to Elon Musk by the Argentinian president. You might well ask me, what's the connection between the chainsaw and what happened in the White House? I request you to have a little patience with me so that I can explain this. If you've been following up on what has happened up to this moment since Trump became the 47th President of the United States of America, you will perhaps agree with me that this chainsaw in a way symbolizes the approach that the American president has adopted to problems in general. And perhaps the Argentinian president who gifted this chainsaw not to Donald Trump, but to Elon Musk, realizing that it is Musk who really calls the shots wherever money is involved, is a pure genius. I don't know if the president himself realizes it, I mean the Argentinian president, but I am convinced that he is a genius. Now, there are two different approaches to problem solving. One is the painful and painstaking patient process of going into the causes and cure of a particular problem and to devise a solution to the problem based on the universal principles or ideals of justice and peace. Justice and peace. In other words, you cannot create peace sacrificing justice. If you want to create justice sacrificing peace, then your approach to peacemaking will be that of, or will be similar to that of the chainsaw, which is used to cut whatever is inconvenient, whatever is in your path that you need to get out of your way. So that's a connection between Trump's approach to Ukraine or Trump's peacemaking solution mission to Ukraine, which is via Putin, entirely based on Putin's premises. Then all you can do is to sacrifice justice to peace and to work out an arrangement for peace which does not have any regard for justice in the given context. So this chainsaw is a perfect symbol of the neat division between peace and justice. If till the other day the American paradigm was justice and peace, the new paradigm, thanks to Elon Musk, and secondly, thanks to Trump and J.D. Vance, it is peace or justice. You can't have both. Now, this is a very significant development, and I'm surprised that all the great pundits of foreign policy have very little say on this matter. Increasingly, if you are a Trump watcher, if you are a watcher of all that happens in America and on account of America, you will see that the central emblem of America, the operative emblem of America, will not be the Statue of Liberty, but the chainsaw that was displayed with dramatic, ritualistic passion by Elon Musk. In fact, that's the reason why I showed you that 30-second clipping where Elon Musk and the president of Argentina are displaying this chainsaw, which is an emblem of violence, which is the last thing you would associate with foreign policy or peacemaking in particular. The kind of ritualistic delight with which this is displayed to the people, and then it's posted on YouTube. That's a very significant thing. And you will have to remember this image for the rest of the tenure of Donald Trump in the office of the President of the United States. Now, it's a matter of some speculation now how long this tenure will last. Will it end in 4 years, as has been the case so far? Or will it go the Russian way, where the American president too could hold the office interminably? Speculations have already started in the United States that Trump may not demit office after 4 years as per the usual tenure. That's in the realm of speculation, and I have very little to do. I wish to have very little to do with speculations, therefore I will not deal with it. And just made a reference to it because it's very much in the zone of discussion. So then, this gives us, I believe, some kind of an introduction to or an entry point into the blow-up, the unmatched, shocking blow-up that happened in the White House. Now, in my understanding of the significance of that event, the structure and significance of that event, I have two important points of reference. Let me deal with them one after the other. The first thing is this: Trump's decision to disown Ukraine preceded the meeting in the White House. Of that, I have really no doubt. Trump has come to the realization that America cannot go on spending the taxpayers' dollar in the manner that it has done so far, creating for America debts to the tune of $35 trillion. $35 trillion. You can imagine the volume of that money when you realize that India even today is around 3 trillion GDP. 3 trillion. So it is more than nearly 12 times greater than the GDP of India. So it's a huge amount. This is unsustainable. Therefore, I agree with Donald Trump that this cannot go on as it has done so far. Therefore, drastic cuts are required. But then if drastic cuts are to be effected, very radical changes in foreign policy would be required. The largest holes in the American pockets pertain to America's foreign policy. America has been playing the global policeman role to unsustainable levels of national burden these many decades. And Trump has been saying for quite some time, that's nothing new, that America cannot do it and America will not do it. And he has been saying this particularly to his European allies. They refused to, or they failed to heed the warning, but now it has blown on their faces. So you will see European leaders scrambling up, trying to do something about it belatedly. But that's not our focus. So I'm very clear that the decision to slowly morph this so-called negotiation intended to result in the signing of a deal between America and Ukraine was actually planned to be a blow-up. Of that, I don't have the slightest doubt. Why is that so? Because And this is why I firmly believe that what I'm saying is right. Because for a very long time, particularly over the last 3 years, in a very intense manner, day in and day out, the American public, the people of America, were used to the impression that America is firmly committed to Ukraine. And for decades, they have been also used to the idea that America is for democracy. America will uphold and do everything in its power to uphold democratic values and human rights and so on and so forth. The rule-based international order. America was the main votary and the chief defender of the rule-based international order. But now it's more than clear, it's abundantly clear that America cannot any longer afford to play this role. And therefore, America had to get out of Ukraine. America would have got out of its responsibility and commitment to Ukraine, quite irrespective of what happened in the White House the other day. But then how does it help? It helps the way it panned out. It helps in order to project to the American people and to convince them that America, unfortunately, is dealing with quite an irrational guy who cannot be held to account, who's actually dragging America into all sorts of absurd, meaningless imbroglios. And therefore, America has to change tack quite dramatically. And what is my evidence for saying so? Very clear. Trump himself provided this. When J.D. Vance advised him that this face-off should not continue to be played out in front of the global media and the American people, Trump said, no, I would rather like it that way because it helps. He says it makes good television. It makes good television. So clearly it was meant to be consumed by the American people so that they get convinced that America is foolish in dealing with Ukraine in the manner it has done so far. It is dealing with a person and a country which is recalcitrant, which is irrational, and which cannot understand the voice of reason and common sense. So this was a clearly intended aim so that the people of America would be persuaded that what Trump is doing is the right thing in disowning and dropping Ukraine out of his item of responsibilities. So this is absolutely clear in my mind. The second point of reference is that Trump wants to actually kill two birds with the same stone. On the one hand, he wants to drop Ukraine. On the other hand, he wants to go down in history as the greatest peacemaker in the world. That's the reason why Trump himself and all his cronies, including the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, they keep saying that the only person who can bring about peace in the world, the only person who can give peace a chance is Trump, and Trump alone, nobody else. Absolutely nobody else. So Trump clearly wants to choreograph this situation, the Ukraine-Russia war, in such a manner that he would be able to project himself as a peacemaker and maybe win for himself a Nobel Prize for Peace next year. And the only way, and this is the heart of my argument, and the only way this can be done is by appeasing Putin. So to my mind, the number one aim in devising the White House blow up in the manner it happened was to offer it on a platter as a theater of appeasement to Putin. Now let me explain what I mean. Trump knows, and almost everybody knows, even I know, Trump knows that there is no way, absolutely no way, Putin and Zelenskyy can be brought face to face to discuss peace at the same table. They are so completely incompatible. Putin hates Zelensky and hates Zelensky mostly for his guts. He never thought that this man who was a one-time comedian would turn out to be such a hero who stands on his feet unflinchingly, unwaveringly in the face of the gravest of all dangers. And therefore, Putin hates him for his guts. Now, I don't have to prove it, but if you want a proof, it is here. After the event, after Zelensky was insulted and unceremoniously kicked out of the White House, what was the reaction from Moscow? The former president of Russia, Medvedev, expressed his glee that Trump gave the dirty pig a slap on his face. So from the Kremlin's perspective, Zelensky is a dirty pig. Now you can't possibly use a metaphor more derogative, more insulting than that. So Trump knows it. So the only way any progress can be made towards creating some kind of peace without justice is in this manner, and that manner has two aspects. One, Zelensky has to be knocked out of the line. If Zelensky is allowed to participate in the peace negotiation, first of all, Putin will not come. Putin will not participate or cooperate. Secondly, even if he is persuaded to cooperate, the process will get stuck because Zelensky will not agree to anything which implies serious injustice to his country after having made the kind of humongous sacrifices that Ukraine has made in the last 3 years. It's something far beyond words. And to expect Zelensky, who has read that epic struggle against the most brutal of all living dictators, to fold up in the last moment, making a mockery of the sacrifices that his people, the heroic Ukrainian people have made, just because Donald Trump wants to win a Nobel Prize for peace, is too ridiculous for words. So it's an absolute necessity to knock Zelensky out of the line, out of the way, if peace negotiations between Ukraine and Russia are to be initiated. And Trump knows, and everybody knows, that peace negotiations to settle this 3-year-long bloody conflict cannot happen keeping Ukraine completely out of it. So if Ukraine cannot be completely excluded, and if Zelensky is insufferable as far as Putin is concerned, not only Putin but also his cronies, then what's the way out? The only way out is to kick Zelensky out of the way. And that is the reason why soon after this White House blow up, the sidekicks of Donald Trump began saying, and Lindsey Graham in particular, but he's not the only one. Even Marco Rubio said something to that effect, though he was milder than Lindsey Graham, that Zelensky must resign. Zelensky must resign. Zelensky must resign. Why? Zelensky must resign because he was invited to the White House only to be insulted. Zelensky must apologize. Zelensky must apologize, knowing that if Zelensky apologizes in public, that apology will demoralize his army fighting on the frontier to such an extent that it's tantamount to committing harakiri. No president who is leading a country in war can afford to apologize in public. It's not that Americans don't know this. It's not that Trump does not know this. It's not that Marco Rubio does not know this. Everybody knows this. Then why is he being badgered? Why is he being pushed about? Why is he being forced his back to the wall to offer a public apology to Trump? Apology for what? Apology for refusing to be insulted? No, the goal is very simple. Zelensky had to be publicly humiliated for two reasons. One, that will be a treat to the eyes of Putin. And this is the best way Donald Trump can ingratiate himself to Putin. With that, Putin will certainly be convinced that America is his best friend. So Americans and their naivete thing, though. The Putin that I know is far more intelligent, far more shrewd than all this. You cannot play this kind of cheap tricks before Putin and expect him to swallow the bait. You try that trick somewhere else. So this is a non-starter as far as I'm concerned. But Trump has made, in my opinion, Trump has cut a sorry figure. The second, of course, as I said, is to get Zelenskyy out of the way so that peace negotiations can proceed. And I think the European leaders, particularly the French President Emmanuel Macron and the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, understand this perfectly. That's the reason why Keir Starmer in particular took the initiative to convene very hastily this high-powered consultation in London, which also included a meeting between Zelenskyy and the King of Great Britain, Prince Charles. Now, why was that done? It was done very deliberately, very intelligently to convey to the global audience, including the American audience, that Zelenskyy is not such an irrational, roguish character. He's a perfect gentleman. And therefore, if things happen the way it did in the White House, he's not to blame but somebody else. That was a very shrewd move on the part of Keir Starmer, and I have to say that my respect for the Prime Minister of Great Britain has risen sky high. He's now showing true leadership. He's not yet a Winston Churchill, I admit, but he's not far from being so. And he senses his opportunity and he's showing the maturity of British diplomacy in handling the present situation. And in comparison, I have to say, when I compare President Trump with Prime Minister Keir Starmer, I have to say that Prime Minister Starmer looks a mature person, the adult in the room, whereas Trump, I'm afraid, evokes overtones of infantilism. He's behaving like a big-sized baby. And unfortunately, he has a committed vote bank. So even today, in spite of all this, his popularity rating, though it has taken a dip, is still at 48%. 52% of Americans disapprove of what Trump has done, how he has managed the situation. But 48% are still with him and firmly with him. So he doesn't have to worry about it. And what disappoints me most is this. There was a time, and that not far back, when people in America had some regard for justice. And I can't imagine a country of the size and global prominence and preeminence as America is. I can't imagine, or I can't respect a country that disowns the agenda of justice, either for domestic compulsions or because of some calculations that are not so camouflaged in the global scenario. And all I know for sure is that this particular episode will not really end the way that Trump and his associates have envisaged. History is a very interesting game. You examine the length and breadth of history, you will see that nobody in history who initiated events like this has ended up precisely where that person wanted it to be. History plays its own game, and it raises many people on their own petard, their own bomb. So it's a very interesting game, and I would request all of you to watch carefully all that's happening, and especially events that are going to unfold in the coming weeks and months. They will be of extreme importance, not just for the people of Ukraine, not only for the people of America, but for the global community, and therefore we cannot afford to be indifferent. That's also the reason why I thought I would deal with it in spite of the fact some of my Christian brothers, no Christian sister, but some of my Christian brothers who are ardent America worshippers have warned me against saying anything critical of Trump, Their argument is that Trump is the global defender of Christianity. Therefore, we must pray for him and we must be in a state of unwavering solidarity with him. I want to tell them with my folded hands, I don't believe in the kind of Christianity that Trump propounds. I don't believe in the Christianity that needs Trump as a defender. And if this is Christianity, I don't want to have anything to do with this, with that Christianity. I believe in the words of Jesus Christ, who said, "Seek first the kingdom of God and his justice, 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 and all these things will be added unto you." Thank you. All the very best.